One quiet night, the angel Gabriel appeared before her, radiating light and peace. Angel Gabriel delivered a message that would both astonish and honor Mary. He revealed that she was chosen by God to bring forth a child, and this child would be none other than God's own Son, to be named Jesus.
And behold, thou shalt conceive and bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus.
And then the Virgin Mary, filled with fear and confusion, asked how this miracle could be possible, since she had never been with a man.
How shall this be, seeing that I know not a man?
Angel Gabriel explained that the Holy Spirit will come upon her, and the power of the Most High would overshadow her, fulfilling the ancient prophecy. The Virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel. Despite the enormity of this revelation, Mary accepted her divine role with grace and humility, saying, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word.
Behold, the handmaid of the Lord. Be it unto me according to thy word.
At this time, Mary was betrothed to Joseph, a man of integrity and kindness. When Mary told him of her divine pregnancy, Joseph was troubled and uncertain. In his distress, he considered quietly ending their engagement to protect her dignity. However, that very night, the angel Gabriel appeared to Joseph in a dream, reassuring him not to fear taking Mary as his wife, for her child was conceived.
Hello there, good evening, and welcome to another interesting edition of Political Voice on Voice of the People Television. POV is your daily dose of in-depth analysis and expert opinions on the latest developments in Nigerian politics. I am your host, Chukwuma Okoro, and I will be guiding you through today's top stories in the next 1 hour. Oh well, before we get into those stories, do well to subscribe to our YouTube page at Voice of the People TV and on other social media platforms at VOP TV Live. You can also be part of this conversation by either calling in or sending WhatsApp messages to the number that appears on your screen. The number is 0904-473-2605. I'll take that number again so that you can capture it. 0904-473-2605. Now, there are two very interesting stories that we are tracking today. And the first one is Nigeria's presidency dismisses possibility of opposition win in 2027 election, insisting that the ruling party is unbeatable. Away from that, we also have Inec to introduce electoral reforms to boost transparency, efficiency, and credibility of Nigeria's voting process. As always, I'm joined in the studio to make sense of these two topics by Mr. Dele Fanimo. Dele Fanimo is a seasoned reporter and VOP in-house analyst. Dele, welcome to the show.
It's a very good evening to our viewer at home.
All right, thank you very much. I'm also expecting Barrister Darlington Agomo. He is a lawyer and political analyst to join me. He should be on his way, and he will be here before we kick into the major topics of discussion. I'm also joined virtually by Dr. Joe Udaja. Dr. Joe Udaja is a respected political affairs commentator. Dr. Udaja, welcome. Good evening and welcome to this show, and good to have you.
Good evening. Thank you. Glad to be joining you today.
All right. Now, before we get into the major stories, there are also, let's take a global overview of happenings around the world. Now, United States President Joe Biden has issued presidential pardons to 39 Americans convicted for nonviolent crimes and commuted the sentences of nearly 1,500 other people. The White House described it as the most acts of presidential clemency issued in a single day. Announcing the move, President Biden said those pardoned had shown successful rehabilitation and have shown commitment to making their communities stronger and safer. The United States Constitution decrees that the president has the broad powers to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Earlier this month, Biden issued a controversial pardon to his son, Hunter, which continued a recent trend of presidents pardoning people close to them. Now in South Africa, Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola has expressed concern over the ongoing war in Gaza, conflicts in Sudan and Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, and the post-election violence in Mozambique. Now, speaking at the news conference attended by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in Pretoria, Lamola said in the Eastern DRC Congo, many civilians, especially women and children, have been displaced due to the conflict. He stressed that the security challenges in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo and in Mozambique remain an issue of concern, adding that people of Sudan are reeling from scars of a devastating conflict. He said, similarly, there is a need for calm and restraint in Mozambique following the post-election violent protests. And back home in Nigeria, Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has challenged those accusing him of land grabbing to come up with proof. The minister's spokesman, Larry Olayinka, gave the challenge in a statement while reacting to a viral video about land allocated in the life camp area of the territory, of which some persons claimed ownership. The FCT minister's spokesperson, in a statement, challenged those saying that the land legally belongs to them to provide a certificate of occupancy granted by the FCTA. Larry also cautioned those he described as self-appointed social media activists to be mindful of being used to promote false claims. Oh, well, we'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll delve into the major topic of discussion. Please stay with us and don't go away.
Conceived by the Holy Spirit and destined to save humanity from sins, Joseph woke up with renewed faith and determination, ready to stand by Mary. Soon, an imperial decree from the Roman emperor commanded all to return to their ancestral towns for a census. Mary and Joseph set out for Bethlehem, traveling for days, with Mary heavily pregnant. Upon reaching Bethlehem, they found no room in any inn. A kind innkeeper, seeing Mary's condition, offered his stable as shelter. Among the hay and the gentle animals, Mary went into labor and gave birth to her firstborn son, Jesus. She wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger, the only cradle available at the time. In a distant land, 3 wise men, also called the Magi, observed a brilliant star rising in the night sky. Interpreting this as a sign of a great new king's birth, they embarked on a long journey to find him. King Herod of Judea, hearing of their quest, secretly plotted to destroy this rival king. He deceitfully asked the Magi to report back to him once they had found the child. Guided by the star, the wise men arrived in Bethlehem and found Jesus with Mary his mother. Overwhelmed with joy, they knelt in worship, presenting gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Warned in a dream of Herod's evil intentions, the Magi returned home by a different route, safeguarding the newborn king. The star, shining brightly above, symbolized the fulfillment of God's promise, a beacon of hope, peace, and salvation for all mankind. Jesus, born in humble surroundings, yet destined for greatness, is the light of the world and a symbol of eternal hope and redemption. And so, the journey of Mary, Joseph, and the baby Jesus began, marked by faith, courage, and the guiding light of a star that heralded the arrival of a new era for humanity. Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year.
All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. And if you are just joining us, this is Political Voice on Voice of the People Television. Oh, well, before we kick into the major topic of discussion, Barrister Darlington Agomo has joined us. Barrister Darlington is a lawyer and a political analyst and VOP in-house analyst. Barrister Darlington, good to have you on the show.
Good evening, Mr. Okoro. How are you today?
Very well, thank you very much.
And Mr. Panimo.
I'm bubbling, but I'm mindful of my speech.
All right. Now, the Nigerian presidency has dismissed concerns that the outcome of the recent Ghanaian presidential election, where the ruling party lost, could impact President Bola Tinubu's chances of re-election in 2027. Presidential advisor on policy communication, Daniel Bwala, emphasized that Nigeria's circumstances are different from Ghana's and that the president remains confident in his ability to win re-election. Bwala pointed out that the president's focus on addressing everyday concerns of Nigerians, such as hunger and agricultural development, is paying off and has earned him commendations from across the country. He also noted that the president is constitutionally qualified to contest for a second term and that he will run his campaign as provided by the Constitution. Meanwhile, Bwala's comments come after rumors emerged of a coalition against Tinubu's re-election in 2027. However, he dismissed those rumors, saying that the time for politicking is not yet and that the administration will be very ready for everyone when the time comes. Gentlemen, all right, let's start with Dr. Joe Udaja. Dr. Joe Udaja, you've heard the comment from the presidency, specifically from Daniel Bwala, the president's advisor on policy communication. Daniel Bwala says that, look, Nigeria's issues, Nigeria's situations are quite different from what happened in Ghana. Now, this is smarting from the fact that, look, people are anticipating that, is there going to be a bandwagon effect, a ripple effect of Ghana's presidential election, where a ruling party lost the election, to the opposition. Now, people are saying Ghana and Nigeria have similar cases, especially when it concerns economic decline. And the election in Ghana was actually won and lost on the premise that, look, the economy had taken a nosedive. And the expectations are that, or questions are being asked, is it possible that there could be a ripple effect in Nigeria come 2027? Now, what's your reaction on this take?
Well, my reaction is this, and before I say my reaction, let me make a comment on the advertisement that you showed. And hopefully I'll get a chance to tell you why I want to make this comment. You see, what you showed there about Christmas, about Bible, it's all good. But what is wrong is this. Africans for centuries have been brainwashed to believe that others with white skin color are who get to heaven. And it's unfortunate that, when I came to this country many years ago and I went to church, Catholic church, I did not see a picture of Jesus or Mary as white. And I was surprised. And I've gone to other churches and I never saw the same thing. That picture you showed there will not be shown in this country in a TV like this. If it is shown, the skin color will be different, especially if it is shown where black people or brown people are. So the problem we have in Nigeria is that we look at outsiders, foreign, as a model. And as a result, what we do is we reject ourselves. And that is a horrible thing. And I do hope that psychologists and sociologists would tell Nigerians that you cannot reject yourself and be whole. You must love yourself. That picture should be made to reflect the skin color of Nigerians.
All right.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
With regards to Ghana, Well, in a way, I agree with Mr. Bawala, okay? He said what most incumbents would say. Nigeria is unique in its own way. Ghana is unique in its own way. They are all in West Africa. But there are a lot of differences. You cannot compare it. It's really like comparing apple and oranges, okay? Ghana, population of Ghana is far, far, far below from Nigeria. Diversity in Ghana is far, far below. Tribalism, all those things. And then you go to the history of the two nations. Kwame Nkrumah is regarded outside Nigeria as a true patriot in terms of fighting for the rights of Ghana. Zeke and the rest of them did some, but not to be compared with what Kwame Nkrumah did. Why is that important? They endured a legacy of we have to get it right for our country versus we have to get it right based on what others tell us, which is what happens in Nigeria. So I do agree in the optimism that the advisor said, that's what you should do as incumbent, is to say, no, we are not the same. We are doing fine. And so I think that the next thing is, okay, what does that really mean? If they show that what they are doing now will help with issues Nigerians are dealing with, then they will win. If on the other hand, what they are doing now do not materialize into what people will see on the ground, then whether it's Ghana or Algeria or America will not even matter, they will lose. So that's really where the
Dr. Daja, please, I'd like you to hold your line of thought. You talked about uniqueness of Ghana and Nigeria. And I would like to ask you, how unique can Nigeria and Ghana be when compared with each other? And when you talk about theories of basic needs, basic human needs, when you talk about hunger, shelter, food, security, and all of that, is it possible that you create that kind of uniqueness? Is it that the people in Nigeria, when they are hungry, they are very quiet, they are not silent? When they don't have shelter, they are unable to express themselves. Look, we don't have shelter, even if it is at the pole. So I want you to let us understand that sense of uniqueness that makes it possible for economic decline in one polity to decide election, while at the same time, that same economic decline cannot decide the outcome of an election in another country.
Well, uniqueness that I talk about is not necessary with respect to hunger. Okay.
Uniqueness in what sense? Uniqueness in what sense? That's what we want to know.
Uniqueness in terms of how Nigerians view their nation, how Ghanaians view their nation, how Nigerians, how much they believe in their system, how much Ghanaians believe in their system. The hunger issue is a
Dr. Daja, is it that Ghanaians believe in their nation while Nigerians don't believe in their nation?
I think that there is more cohesion within Ghanaians when it comes to their nation. And there are many reasons for that. That's why I mentioned what Nkrumah did. What Nkrumah did was he left a legacy of Ghana is #1 and it must be #1. That legacy has been challenged, but he stayed. Nigeria, unfortunately, did not leave that legacy of Nigeria as one nation. And so we have to deal with that. The hunger is unifying. There is hunger in America. And yes, hunger can win or lose the election. But what you are doing to address the hunger can win the election. And that's why I say that for Tinubu to win, he has to show that things they are doing now are working and that they will work and show the outcome. So uniqueness is not just by being black or white or by being...
All right, Dr. Daja, hold your line of thought. Stay with us. Sure. We'll come back to you. Now, let's bring you back to the studio. Barrister Darlington, I want you to react to the statement from the presidency that there's not going to be a ripple effect, more like a bandwagon effect of what happened in Ghana, replicating itself in Nigeria. How do you react to that?
The reason why such a statement will come up is because they have done it before and they got away with it.
Did what before?
They have humiliated and intimidated Nigerians before under Buhari, and they won elections. So they are following the same trajectory that if a Buhari can be re-elected with all the bad performance, then a Tinubu will be a walkover for Nigeria. So I think that's where he's coming from. It's not about telling us that why should the Tinubu not win after he has performed so well. I was thinking he's going to tick the boxes and tell us that thing that will make Tinubu to win election in 2027. But he didn't show me anything. So the only thing they are basing is the fact that they have perfected the machinery of rigging. That is the only thing, nothing else. And because they succeeded with that under Buhari, that is why it has become like a culture. You don't bother, performance does not matter to Nigerians, hunger or whatever. After all, they did it under Buhari and they got away with it. So why wouldn't Tinubu do the same thing? So it's not about performance here. In Ghana, you saw that it was performance economy that was the issue here. But in Nigeria, it's the opposite. That will tell you that these people they have psychological cultured Nigerians to believe in whatever they are doing. When you open your mouth to protest, they label you a treasonable felony and then throw you into the dungeon.
Okay.
So they have used that method to humiliate Nigerians into submission.
Now, Barrister Darlington, when certain statements like this come out from the presidency, does it create the impression that the president is, or the APC, or that the government is jittery about 2027?
It is not jittery.
You know, like trying to show a sense of, oh, we are in power, we are stable, nothing is going to shake us. No, nothing shakes us.
No,
does it convey that sense of being jittery?
No, to them, they are trying to tell you that nothing can shake them. But I don't know whether...
Exactly my point.
Good.
In trying to convey that, does it underlining, you know, as a factor, does it look like the presidency is, or that the APC and the government is, look, we need to do something very fast, otherwise these people might pull the carpet, you know, off our feet.
Do you know why I would not think it's G3? Because in the past, with what Buhari did in office, these people still got away with it. So it's not as if they are G3, because if they are G3, they wouldn't have started the way they started. They don't even need anybody to tell them to do the right thing. But because they know that Nigerians are laid back, we have sold our right and our conscience to a plate of food. So they have taken us for a ride. If not, you don't need anybody to tell you to do the right thing because of election.
Okay.
But now, they know that whether they perform or not, they win the election.
Okay, let's bring in Dele Fanimo into this conversation. Dele, in 2015, an opposition party won an election in this country. Largely because, look, Nigerians felt at that time, you know, that there was hunger in the land, that there was economic decline. The present government, the APC government, at that time, lies on the fact that, look, dollar was 220 naira, fuel was, you know, that we needed to do things, that corruption was rife in the land. At the end of the day, they were unable to unseat the PDP. Now, 9 years later, why is it difficult for the same government to see the possibility of another political party unseating it, especially when the condition that they met this country is worse than it is now?
You see, let me tell you straight. There's this notion. When APC was angling for power in 2015, it was predicated on fight against corruption and insecurity. It wasn't much of economy because economy was fairly stable.
No, it wasn't.
No, wait. Let me explain to you.
The APC said, "Look, we are going to crash the exchange rate."
You see,
didn't they say that? They said bag of rice was 8,000 naira, and the idea was that the impression was that it was very expensive at that point at 8,000 naira.
You see,
so it also rested on the economic decline.
It's not really economy at that time.
That was propaganda.
Because it was just basically propaganda against Jonathan. As at the time Jonathan was leaving office, rice was between 7,000 and 7,500.
Exactly my point.
You understand?
Understand my point. As at that time, the APC complained, Nigerians equally complained that 7,000 naira bag of rice was too high. And that dollar that was exchanging at 1,200, that it was that the exchange rate was high against the naira.
That's why I said it bordered on propaganda was the fact that Tam David West of blessed memory came off in support of the incoming APC to say we will make sure that naira equals to $1. Okay. 1 naira equals to $1, which everybody, an average sane and intellectually sound Nigerian knows it was not going to be possible.
Hey, but it had happened before.
When was that?
In our national life, in our national history.
Even naira was stronger.
Naira was stronger.
What I'm saying, the indices at that time does not show, because already there was capital flight. Companies were relocating. Companies started relocating shortly after Jonathan came. Dunlop, Michelin, and all that.
Exactly the point. So there was some sense of economic decline.
What I was saying, it was not too obvious at that time. But Buhari came riding on the crest of, we have done it before. We fought corruption in this country during his reign as military head of state. And because he was seen as a retired general, that he could, and he also made some inroads into curtailing all these security breaches. So they assumed that he was going to be the one to solve our insecurity problems. Okay. So on that pedestal, he came in. Now, you see, there was some triggers that a discerning person will know that Jonathan was losing it before that election. One, a large fraction of PDP branched out, and there was new PDP of the Lamidos, the Sarakis, and all the rest. And two, the atmosphere was so tense because of insecurity that it was assumed that because Jonathan was a civilian, he couldn't rein in this insurgents.
Okay, quick one. I want you to relate it to this present call.
Now, you see.
Do you think that the present condition,
the present conditions in this country today, if not reversed towards the build-up to 2027 election, it should be considered as a kind of
that could decide the 2027
you understand
election.
as a way of looking at what is likely to happen in 2027.
All right, let's bring in Dr. Joe Daja. Dr. Daja, I want you to, let's do some form of simulation now. I want us to bring 2027 to today with the provision of food, with the fighting of insecurity, with the fighting of corruption. Do you think that Nigerians are most likely to return this present government?
Look, it's hard to answer that question at this moment, okay?
No. Dr. Daja, no. We are not looking at 2027 now. I said, let's simulate, Let us even say that today is 2027 general election. The factors on ground, the performance of the government as at present, is it able to help it retain power in 2027?
Well, if you were to take the election today, I would say that APC will win. And the reason is not necessarily because things are better, but people will see that PDP is in trouble in terms of structure. Labour Party is almost dead. So most people will say, you know what, things are bad, but we need some party that is stable. Right now, the only party that is stable.
Dr. Joe Udeaja, essentially what you are saying is that Nigerians, vote for stability, even in the face of hunger. For that a political party is stable, they will still vote for it, despite the fact that they are hungry, despite the fact that there is insecurity, despite the fact that there is the national grid, there is no electricity and all of that. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, Yes, again, note my statement. They will vote because they know that they need a strong government.
A government that is unable to put food on their table, is it the one they are going to vote for?
Well, the government has not been in office for 2 years, okay? And most problems Nigerians are dealing with outside of what the world is dealing with. Because this hunger we're talking about is everywhere in the world. Look at the economy of Canada. Look at the economy of Europe, and so on. And these are countries that produce what they eat. Nigeria does not. So the point is, look, the statement that the president made, okay, is what an incumbent would say. In fact, if the president said, "Oh, we know we are not doing well, we will lose," then most people will dump him because that's a failure statement.
Okay.
Saying that they will win. An incumbent has the power, and it has nothing to do with Inec or this. The point is, as the current leader, you're supposed to say that you will win. That doesn't mean you will win.
All right.
That doesn't mean you are saying INEC will give you election. We need to get out of that INEC given election.
Okay, Dr. Daja, essentially, from what you have said, we understand that the statement made by the to the advisor, to the presidential advisor, is merely a political statement and should not be taken seriously. Is that what you mean?
You have to. You have to.
We have to do what, sir?
He has to make that kind of statement. He has to portray confidence.
Okay, so it's more like a political statement that shouldn't be taken seriously. Should be taken at face value.
Yes, he has to portray that confidence. Even it's like being in a plane, and the plane is having problems. The pilot will not tell you, "Oh, sorry, we are going to die." The pilot will tell you, "Put on your seatbelt. We're on the right track," even at the time that the plane is going down. So the incumbent has to portray that confidence. The question is, will that confidence carry through? And for it to carry through, they have to show from next year,
all right,
the benefits of what they are doing,
okay,
and how what they are doing has moved the country from point A to point B.
All right.
But they have to say what they say. I don't see that as saying, "Oh, because we know we are going to rig election."
All right, thank you, Dr. Daja. Thank you very much, Dr. Daja. We have to move on to the second topic of conversation. We are already talking about elections, and now let's talk a bit about the body that will even conduct the elections. Now, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, revealed that the commission has identified 142 recommendations to ensure credible elections. Now, these recommendations cover various aspects, including voter management, voter education, political parties, and election security. Yakubu spoke at the meeting with resident electoral commissions, REC, in Abuja, where he highlighted that 86 of recommendations require administrative action by INEC, while 48 require action from various stakeholders, such as security agencies, political parties, and civil society organizations. 8 recommendations require legislative action by the National Assembly. Now, some of the key highlights of recommendations include the need for legal clarity in result management and the review of the use of permanent voters' cards, PVCs, as the sole means of identification for voter accreditation on election day. The Commission believes that computer-generated slips or downloaded voter slips from their website can suffice for voter identification, which will save costs and eliminate issues around PVC collection. Now, Yakubu emphasized the importance of engaging with RECs, that is, resident electoral commissioners, first because of their frontline role in implementing the recommendations. He also announced that the Commission will soon make a presentation to the Joint Committee of the Senate and House of Representatives on electoral matters to deliberate on electoral reforms. Now, let me come to you, Barrister Darlington. Yeah. Reforms. This is not the first time. We also talked about, in fact, when Yar'Adua came into office, he admitted that, look, the election that brought me into office was essentially flawed. That was in 2007. And he instituted a commission, headed by former Justice Muhammad Owais. And that committee came up with very, very salient, comprehensive recommendations that should have been able to move, our electoral process forward. Unfortunately, when Yar'Adua passed on, Jonathan couldn't implement it. Now, one of the things now is that, one of the recommendations is that, look, is it possible that we use slips, computer-generated slips, for identification on election day? Because of the cumbersome nature of this person, of distributing permanent voter cards, which at the end of the day enfranchises a lot of people. Now, this recommendation has come in place. If it is approved, what it means is that you can simply print your own slip, go to a polling unit with the BIVAS in place, you are accredited and you vote. How far do you think that this is going to drive voter apathy, reduce voter apathy, and enable more Nigerians, drag a lot more people into the electoral net, for them to exercise their franchise?
Moses, sorry, Mr. Okoro, the issue here is not about voters participating in an election. It's about their vote being counted.
No, but you have to vote for your vote.
That's what I'm saying. The one they voted did not count. We have seen it on several occasions. It is not about they are willing. Take, for example, the last election, the general election in 2023. You saw the turnout, especially in Lagos, and you saw what happened. Did the vote count? The answer is no. So the manipulation is what people are, frown at. Elections in Nigeria are being manipulated. That is majorly. If it is a one-off thing, maybe there are some hitches here and there, we can say, okay. But the actual votes do not count. It does not count, because there are places you will know that, yes, this area, this party is the stronghold. But at the end of the day, what's it called now? Votes are allocated to the other person. And the result will be announced. These are the things that are making people to be very laid back when it comes to election in Nigeria. So it's not about sleep or voting. If you ask me, Nigerians are willing to vote, but does their vote to count? Do they get the right person they voted for?
Okay.
So if you can eliminate all these things, it is at this point you now begin to ask whether Nigerians are voting or not. But for you to sit down and say, because...
so what form of recommendations do you expect Inec to have made, to be able to conduct a credible election?
Thank you, Mr. Ogo. Whenever there is an infraction on the voting ground, Inec officials are supposed to know. They know, because they are the one officiating. What happens if they take a decision at that point and say, look, there is a problem here. We don't like what happened here. We are not going to use this particular result. Don't you know that it will send a signal to those committing these infractions? But they know that not to have. That's why at the end of the day, they say, go to court. Go to court. As if God...
Mr. Darlington, specifically, what recommendations do you expect INEC to make to be able to conduct credible elections?
Good. INEC should, one, make sure that the people, the electoral officials are not compromised.
How will INEC do that?
That they are not the members of a particular political party.
Do you have cases where INEC officials have been declared members of political parties?
Tons of them. We saw it in Edo. We saw everywhere. It is on record. And these people usually compromise the elections. Then two, INEC must make sure that there are no security agents around. All this police army, we don't need it in our elections.
Okay.
Other places that conducted the election without army and police, did they not conduct the election? Those people should go back to where they belong. And then they should make sure that there is no thuggery. They should make it clear right in there. Any thuggery means this place will be cancelled. So if you know that somebody is coming to cause problem in your stronghold...
But Mr. Darlington, the issue of thuggery is law enforcement. Is it essentially within the mandate of INEC to control election thuggery?
Because at that point where they are voting, and INEC is in charge. Yes, they are in charge of that election at that point. So they should make sure that nothing goes wrong.
All right.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, They should make sure that nothing goes wrong. In fact, INEC should have their own a sort of ombudsman. People who supposed to be like their own vigilante. In all
I think that's one of the recommendations.
Yes.
That they should have a special court.
Good. They should have it. That's their own person, not police or army. So that those people will not give them on the spot a result and report on what is going on. Okay. They don't need any police or army because the police and army are agents of the ruling government.
All right, let's bring Mr. Dele Fanimo into this. Dele, you have heard the INEC is making recommendations, more like an electoral reform. I would like you to comment on the issue of, because it's been so contentious, who appoints, the umpire. Some people think that it is not proper for the president to be the one that appoints the chairman of INEC. Or why it's recommended and said, look, take it away from the president and dump it in NJC, National Judicial Commission, so that a panel of judges, members of the NJC, will be the ones to appoint the head of the umpire. Do you think it's the right route to travel? Considering the fact that the head of the NJC is also appointed by the same president.
Whatever reforms that will guide the operations of INEC on the surface will be taken as a way to go. But what about the operators of these reforms? You're talking about the judiciary that is so immersed in corruption and have been promoted for committing infractions against the state in terms of granting frivolous injunctions, in terms of giving out judgments that are at variance with expectations of the masses and all that. So it's difficult to locate it within the ambit of the judiciary. Now, you see, the reforms I expect should be located within the presence of operational guidelines. You see, electoral reform stands alone. There are some things INEC brought into play that people mistake for part of the electoral reforms. But they were basically like BVAS, IREF, they were not part of the electoral law.
Because they were not justiciable.
That is it. So they were not part of the electoral law, but they were.
If they can do it, make it a law now that immediately you cast your vote, it is hitting at the dashboard. Okay. Everybody is reading it.
But Mr. Darlington, we are pressed for time. Do we have that? Do we take that as your final thought, or do you have anything to add?
Yeah, let me use this opportunity and say it clearly. Okay. While we are making these laws, we must make sure that it is implementable. Because that's another issue. We don't want that day another glitch will come. Then somebody will tell us that their beaver, no battery, no generator, no nothing. And then the network failed, everything. We must make sure that it is implementable. And where there is any glitch or whatever, it should be suspended until we get it right. We no longer want to do ad hoc arrangement or manipulations or something that will not meet international standard. Because elections all over the world, they have a standard. America did their own, UK did their own. Please, why can't you copy those things from there? Do people there, do they have two heads?
All right, thank you, Barrister Darlington. Let's have your final thought.
My final thought is that democracy rests on the power of the people to decide who governs them. And to that extent, INEC has a crucial role to play in ensuring that votes count. And if votes must count, there must be systems and structures in place to ensure that votes count. And in the build-up to the next election, which is 2000, apart from the off-cycle election, the major election that we are looking at is 2027. Okay. INEC must do everything possible within its means to ensure that votes count.
All right, thank you very much. It's interesting to know that INEC is going in this direction because after the Ghana election, our INEC chairman, Professor Yakubu, said that, look, Ghana got it right because they actually copied from us. And if Ghana copied from us and they got it right, I think we expect ourselves to do better in 2020. I've been speaking, this is how far we can go on political voice this evening. I've been speaking with Barrister Darlington Agomwa, a lawyer and VOP in-house analyst, as well as Mr. Dele Fanimo. Mr. Dele Fanimo is a seasoned reporter and VOP in-house analyst. We also had Dr. Joe Udaja join us virtually. Dr. Joe is a political analyst. Gentlemen, thanks for being on.